I'm Sean Aylmer, and this is Fear and Greed's Sunday feature interview. I'll be back again tomorrow with another weekday episode of Fear and Greed, the normal mix of business news and interviews that sets you up for a successful day. In the meantime, enjoy our Sunday feature interview. At Fear and Greed, we try to highlight great stories of innovation and entrepreneurship, and this morning we're speaking with an expert. Professor Grace McCarthy is Dean of the Sydney Business School at the University of Wollongong. She has served in commercial roles internationally and in Australia, and completed her Doctorate of Philosophy on Leadership at the University of Manchester Institute of Science and Technology. Professor Grace McCarthy, welcome to Fear and Greed.
Thanks very much, Sean. Happy to be here.
Grace, how do you define innovation and entrepreneurship?
Innovation, I define very simply as creativity applied. So you can be very creative, but it's only when you take those ideas into the real world that we see innovation happening. And that innovation could be an amazing radical breakthrough, or it could be just slight improvements in the products, the services, or the processes that we use. Entrepreneurship then is taking a business idea and making it work. And of course, we can make things more complicated because one of our big interests now is in social entrepreneurship. And that's when you're trying to address a need in the community. You still want to make money, but at the same time, you're doing something positive to help the world. You need to be sustainable, but you also want to make a difference. And we also talk with our students about intrapreneurship, when you're using entrepreneurship tools and techniques inside an organization. So we get that buzz of ideas that you associate with a startup, because everybody nowadays needs to be able to think creatively, to be innovative, to be entrepreneurial, because we need to make changes in the work we do and how we do it.
So in a world like COVID-19 world, I presume innovation at least is even more important than ever before.
Yes, but when you think about it, it was really important before. We just didn't necessarily do enough about it. We were seeing how big data was changing things, automation. So for example, with automation, one of the things that has done when you look at robotics in factories is that businesses which had outsourced production to low-cost countries have brought some of that manufacturing back to their home country because robotics is replacing people in some of those jobs. The sharing economy is giving us lots of opportunities. And with COVID, what we're seeing is, for example, lots of people working from home. Think of those opportunities for the future. How do we actually create the world of the future that we don't just go back to what we were doing before? COVID is giving us opportunities to work with people across the world. One of the things that we do in our classes now is that we can bring in our colleagues who are working at the University of Wollongong in Dubai or Hong Kong or Malaysia. And the students are getting those diverse perspectives live rather than just reading about it. So this is a really exciting time. The opportunities from COVID are not just in the technology side, they're very much in the human side. There's just so many interesting ideas out there. So for example, if we think about working from home, when we go back to normal life, whenever that might be, it won't be the same. It can't be the same because people have had this taste of freedom, of not being tied down 9 to 5. So if everybody isn't working 9 to 5, Monday to Friday in an office, that means there will be less need for office space. We can convert some of that space to residential, for example. We will also have less pollution because we won't have so many people commuting. There are all sorts of positives that come out of this as long as we don't let ourselves just go back to the way it was before. And I think if the difference between now and the global financial crisis was that after the global financial crisis, we kind of did revert back to the way we did things before. It's up to us now to actually say, what do we want the world of work to look like in the future? How do we make it happen? Let's choose because we have options.
Tell me, can people learn innovation and entrepreneurialism? So I get what you're saying there, but it's so easy to fall back into your own ways, your old ways. So can you learn innovation?
Yes. So actually everybody has ideas, but what we try and encourage our students is not instantly to think of an idea, but to actually look for a problem to solve. And we give them lots of practice with that before they actually have to come up with an idea of their own. So for example, I might give them a scenario. Let's think of this lovely old lady called Anna, and we make it very personal. Now, Anna is, think about your grandmother, she's 85 years old, she's living on her own, she likes living on her own.
Yep.
Now, the problem she has is getting out of bed safely on her own is becoming increasingly difficult. And we build up that picture of Anna so the students feel like they know her. She's in good health. She feels frustrated. She feels ashamed that she needs that help. She wants her independence. And we can add in constraints. She doesn't really have much extra money to pay for a solution. And then the students work together to come up with ideas to help Anna. It might be changes to the bed. It might be various forms of assistance for getting up. So they develop a way of thinking about problem solving that's human-centered. So it's humans making use of technology, not technology for its own sake. And all of our students can do this beautifully.
So what about entrepreneurship? In my family, I have a younger brother who's extremely entrepreneurial, and I'm far more conservative. Again, is it something that you have the wherewithal to be or not?
Well, when you think about setting up your business, if you're going to set it up on your own, you need to have certain characteristics like being comfortable with taking risks, for example.
Craziness?
That probably helps. I don't know your brother yet, but yeah.
In his case, definitely craziness. But anyway.
So what you can learn is to take risks in a way that you're comfortable with, to work out how to identify the risks, how to manage them. So your brother might be more comfortable with crowdfunding. You might actually like a traditional bank loan. So we get students to think about different ways of managing the risk, different ways of funding their ideas, but also to think about it doesn't just have to be one person. What you can have is 2-3 co-founders, all with the different attributes that together will set up a fantastic business.
Do you think that innovation and entrepreneurship then is more about leadership, leading the way, or managing the different pieces?
You need both. You want leadership because you want to create a vision. You want people to get that sense of meaning and purpose. That's what everybody's looking for these days. They don't just come in to do a job every day. You need leadership because you want to listen to people, to ask questions. You want to encourage everyone in the organization to bring their ideas forward. And you also need that understanding that some of those ideas will fail. And that's okay, because if you've never had any failures, you're just not being brave enough. You're not reaching out enough. So you want to create that culture that says, try new things. I'll support you if they don't work out. We'll learn from the failures and we'll move on. We won't repeat the failures, but we will learn from them. But you need management as well, because you want to manage the process. You want to implement the ideas well. You want to manage your suppliers. You want to manage the risk, manage the finances. And you want somebody who will actually challenge you. If you're the ideas person, you need somebody to say, hang on, have you thought about this? And you need somebody who say, actually, that project, it's not working. We need to kill it because we've got other opportunities that are more promising. So having both leadership and management need not be in the same person, but having that partnership, whether it's inside the organization or having a mentor or a coach, some sort of sounding board outside, you need that combination of skills wherever they are.
And do you think big business is better or worse than small business in innovation and entrepreneurship?
Sadly, I think a lot of big businesses get so
bureaucratic?
Yes, bureaucratic. They're stuck with their ideas. They've got their routines to manage quality. And the more they build up the centre and put in those routines, and the more risk averse they become. And also the more the remote they become from the people at the front line. And very often it's the people at the front line have some fantastic ideas. They're close to the customers. They're close to the manufacturing equipment. They have ideas. If anybody was listening, they would actually soon make enormous progress. But not enough managers are listening.
Are there any big businesses that you look at globally and just think, wow, they've been innovative? They've actually been able to continually reinvent themselves?
One of the classic examples is 3M. 3M, who make Post-it notes and they make all sorts of other products, they allow their people 15-20% of their time to work on crazy ideas, to actually try things out, not to actually charge every half an hour back to a project, but actually just take some free time and think. That's fantastic. I worked for a company called Corning, and Corning make glass, but they also make optical fibers. And they were really expecting that everybody would come in every day and look for an opportunity to do something better today than you did yesterday. And it's that mindset that you really want. Because if you have everybody with that mindset, then you're harnessing that power of innovation and entrepreneurship, but aligned with the organization's mission and purpose. That's the power of it.
What about smaller companies that you've seen? We actually had some people on recently called Stage Kings. They built stages, massive stages. And when COVID-19 hit, they turned to building work from home desks because they were all carpenters.
Perfect.
Incredible success.
Yeah, and companies that have switched from making gin to making hand sanitizer, for example. That's very creative.
Wow. I'm not sure whether it's productive, but it's very creative.
I think they've kept some of the gin as well because some of us need that on the way through.
That's true.
But one of the small companies I went to, and they only had 9 people, they had started with a very strong leader. His idea was around testing equipment for airplanes. So very specialist business, very strong. He had an amazing idea. Lots of airline companies bought his equipment and still do. And he was feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders because the whole responsibility for the company was with him.
Yeah.
once he actually relaxed and let other people come up with ideas as well, that company came up with so many new adaptations, amendments, new products. They actually had to slow things down and say, look, we can only do so many innovations at a time. But when you walked in the door there, you could feel the energy, you could feel the buzz. And that's what innovation entrepreneurship can do. People want to come and work with you because it's so exciting, because they can make a difference, because they're not just being treated as a pair of hands to make things or do things, but you're actually letting them think and coming up with ideas as well. So they feel that ownership, that they can actually make a difference.
And do you think Australia is a particularly innovative society compared to other places?
I think Australia is great at making solutions for problems and not necessarily making business opportunities out of them. So we fix things and we move on. And lots of people have things they've done in their backyards that work. And maybe other people would find them useful as well. I would love to see organisations and universities in Australia work more closely together. I think that's something that we don't do enough of. I think it would be great for universities because it allows people in academic roles to have a better understanding of the problems in industry rather than a more theoretical understanding. And it allows the people in industry to benefit from people who are looking worldwide at what's happening in their particular area and actually together then come up with solutions.
How does it work at the moment? Is it a bit hit and miss, that sort of process?
It is a bit hit and miss. We see organisations that are very welcoming to our students for internships or for short projects. And then for technical problems, we will see industry going to particular companies where they can see, oh, they work in that area. Maybe they can help with testing this or doing that. But I think there's a huge opportunity, for example, in areas, being in a business school, I'm very interested in how we can actually get better at leadership, how we can actually adopt that coaching mindset that will encourage innovation and entrepreneurship, how we can better at managing our supply chains and making sure that we have an ethical supply chain, how we manage stakeholder expectations. So it's not just what we're returning to shareholders, but how we can actually invest for the future and be sustainable now, and how we can actually address the challenges of today, doing good for our community as well as being successful companies. All of that, I think, takes a partnership approach, not just industry and universities working separately.
Grace, thanks for talking to Fear and Greed.
Oh, you're very welcome, Sean. It was a pleasure. We could talk about this all day.
I know we could. That's true. That was Professor Grace McCarthy, Dean of the Sydney Business School at the University of Wollongong.